Okay, welcome back from your break, everyone. I'm going to start this next topic of what is merit, because this isn't a topic that you're going to need to understand in order to make your way to enlightenment. You wouldn't actually be able to make your way to enlightenment without understanding this topic. And it's a topic that people oftentimes misunderstand. So I'm going to spend some time helping you to understand what this topic is of what is merit. And then we're going to talk about continued support on the path to enlightenment, because our course is kind of coming to a little bit of a close here. Even though we have some things that are going on tomorrow, we'll kind of be coming to a close in a matter of between today and tomorrow. So I'm going to share with you how to get continued support beyond this course. So let's talk about this topic of what is merit, which is going to ultimately help you understand a certain practice that you're going to need in order to make your way to enlightenment. So there's a topic of merit, which is a readiness to take action of frequently giving something more than is strictly required in any given situation, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources, without any expectation of anything in return, in order to help the continuation of the teachings of the Buddha. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he taught generosity. Generosity is giving and sharing because it trains your mind to let go. That's the number one problem that is causing the discontent feelings, is the mind is holding on. If you guys remember craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, when the mind gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings. But when it doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings. So the reason why this is occurring is because of craving, desire, attachment, and the mind holding on. So by you practicing giving and sharing with the people around you, it's training your mind to live open-handedly and be willing to let go. So you're going to need to practice generosity throughout your life. But as there's a certain type of generosity called merit, where you're practicing to be able to help the continuation of the teachings of the Buddha so that people can actually get access to his teachings. So the Buddha taught this as part of his path to enlightenment. And it's important to remind yourself that when the Buddha was teaching generosity, essentially he was helping people to be able to understand, to train their mind to let go. But it's important to remember that he was a prince destined to become a king. He was very rich, he was very wealthy, and he walked away from that lifestyle. Sometimes when people see teachings like this, they're like, oh, maybe the Buddha was trying to enrich himself. That's why he taught this. This isn't actually true. He knew that it took him a lot of generosity in order to be able to get to enlightenment. He had to practice a certain amount of generosity, and he knew that other people were going to need to do that as well. He was already rich. He already had plenty of money, and he walked away from that. So it's important that you don't allow your mind to contribute something like what you might see in the world today, where people are enriching themselves through these kinds of things. That's not what the Buddha was doing. He was teaching this topic of merit because it's an important aspect of your practice to be able to get to enlightenment, that you give and share with the people around you. And I'm going to help you to understand the distinction between merit and just pure generosity. So the Buddha taught about this topic of merit, and he taught that whenever you're giving and sharing and you're giving gifts for the continuation of his teachings, that it would be wise to look for individuals who are deeply practicing the teachings. And he referred to this as the Aryan Sangha. What this means is the noble community. Essentially, it's anybody who's in one of the four stages of enlightenment. The Buddha encouraged people to be able to make gifts and offerings to these types of people to help the continuation of the teachings of the Buddha. And the reason why is that if you can imagine, during the lifetime of a Buddha, there were tons and tons and tons of people learning with him. There were countless people that were getting to enlightenment, and there were countless people who were practicing his teachings. And there was many students. But when you have this many students, there's going to be a certain core group of people that are practicing the teachings closely, but then there's going to be people on the outer edges that aren't necessarily practicing the teachings very closely. And he knew this, so he encouraged people to make gifts and offerings to the people who are practicing the teachings the closest. And he referred to this as the Aryan Sangha, or the noble community, the people who are practicing the teachings the closest. So I'm going to help you guys to be able to see this through this image here, that there's a practice of generosity, and the Buddha taught to practice generosity with everybody around you, that it's wise to practice generosity because you're living open-handedly, you're not expecting anything in return, you're getting past that selfishness. He calls that a stain. He calls the the mind, when it has selfishness, he says it's the stain of selfishness. And you need to eliminate this stain of selfishness because the mind is holding on. And the mind thinks in the unenlightened state that if I spend 3 hours doing this, I want this in return. And if I spend 3 days doing this, I want this in return. But you need to get to the point where your mind isn't doing that, where you're completely comfortable with giving and sharing with people without any expectation of anything in return from them. And this is going to help your mind to let go and train to eliminate craving, desire, attachment, and always wanting things from people. So generosity is going to help you to do that. But then there's a certain type of generosity that's called merit. And the way that you determine whether your generosity is merit or not is ask yourself this question. Was this an offering to a teacher to support the continued sharing of the Buddhist teachings, helping others to attain enlightenment? And if the answer is no, you're experiencing these benefits, that you're eliminating craving, desire, attachment within your own mind because you're practicing generosity without any expectation of anything in return, and it's helping to produce wholesome Kamma, which is eliminating that selfishness and that sensual desire from your own mind. So that is beneficial to practice generosity. But if you ask yourself this question and it was to support the continuation of the teachings of the Buddha, you're still getting those same benefits, that your mind is eliminating craving, desire, attachment, and you're generating wholesome results, progressing closer to enlightenment by eliminating selfishness and sensual desire from your mind. But there's this added benefit that it's helping other people to get access to the teachings of the Buddha. So we refer to this as merit. So essentially everything that you see around you, even the land that we're sitting on, was donated by somebody at some point, that there was somebody somewhere along the lines that had benefited with the teachings of the Buddha and experienced improvement to the condition of their mind and their life and said, you know what, I would like to be sure other people get access to these teachings too. Let me donate my land so that other people can come here and learn. And now they donated their land so that they could build a temple. And then other people came along and said, hey, let's donate some shingles or some concrete or some pavement or whatever it was. People over the last 500 years have donated for this particular temple, for example, because this temple has been here for over 500 years. So over that time frame, people have slowly donated things to be able to build up this particular temple. And now what the Thai people have is they essentially have like a mental health network all throughout their country that they've constructed over the last 800 to 1200 years, where now people can go in and out of this mental health network and actually get help. And the way that they've done that is through merit, is to be able to practice the giving and sharing without any expectation of anything in return. And this is what's going to help your mind to experience these improved benefits. So everything you see around you, the land, the buildings, here, this particular classroom, it was really run down when I first came here. Students donated a projector, they donated supplies, carpets, bookshelves, microphones, computers, different things. Everything you see around you is from some student that decided like, hey, I received a certain amount of benefit and I would like to see other people to be able to experience benefit as well. So we refer to this as merit. And an individual is developing this through practicing generosity. So this is some words of the Buddha where he's talking about this Aryan Sangha, making offerings to this Aryan Sangha. So I'll read it to you to help you understand some of his teachings. I'm actually going to be sharing a lot of words of the Buddha on this particular topic for you. This is titled An Unsurpassed Field of Merit for the World. Monks, these 8 persons are worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of reverential salutation, an unsurpassed field of merit for the world. What 8? The stream enterer, the one practicing for the realization of the fruit of stream entry, the once returner, the one practicing for the realization of the fruit of once returning, the non-returner, the one practicing for the realization of the fruit of non-returning, the arahant, the one practicing for the realization of the fruit of arahantship. These 8 persons, monks, are worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of reverential salutation, an unsurpassed field of merit for the world. So I'm going to pause here because depending on when you came into the course, you may not actually know what these things are. What the Buddha is referring to here is the 4 stages of enlightenment. This is how he referred to the 4 stages of enlightenment. Because as you're developing your mind, you're going to progress through these different stages. The first, second, third, and fourth stage of enlightenment. And the mind's actually enlightened when you get to the 4th stage. So in order to get to this first stage of enlightenment as a stream enterer, there would need to be a certain amount of wisdom that an individual would need to cultivate. They would need to be dedicated and determined to be able to get to that point. So the Buddha is encouraging people not to just make offerings to any old person on the street in terms of producing merit, but instead make offerings to the people who are deeply practicing the teachings, because that's going to allow the continuation of the teachings for other people to get access to the teachings that it's going to take to be able to eliminate anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings. So he's talking about these 8 people. Anybody who's in one of the 4 stages of enlightenment, or they're practicing to get into one of those 4 stages of enlightenment. These would be dedicated and determined people. Then he goes on here. He says, the 4 practicing the way, the 4 established in the fruit. This is the upright community, composed in wisdom and virtuous behavior. So here he's talking about these 8 people, the 4 practicing the way, the 4 established in the fruit. And he says, this is the upright community. You might think that during the lifetime of the Buddha, he was the only one teaching, but this isn't actually true. During the lifetime of the Buddha, there are multiple people who were claiming that they had figured out how to get to enlightenment, and many different people were teaching. And there were students that were studying with all these different teachers. But the Buddha knew that it was his teachings that led to enlightenment, and that if people studied with his teachings, they would actually be able to experience this enlightened mental state. So we referred to them as the upright community or the straight community, because they're the ones who have this wisdom to be able to make their way to enlightenment. And that's why he says, composed in wisdom in virtuous behavior, this moral conduct that's part of making your way to enlightenment. He says, for people intent on sacrifice, for living beings seeking merit, making merit that ripens in the acquisitions, what is given to the community bears great fruit. Okay? So what he's talking about here is that for somebody who's interested in making merit, that it leads to the acquisitions. It ripens in the acquisitions. What he's talking about here is that if you're coming in contact with someone who's in one of the 4 stages of enlightenment, or someone who's practicing for the realization of one of the 4 stages of enlightenment, and you're making an offering to them, that's going to ripen in you acquiring one of these 4 stages of enlightenment as well. The way that this occurs is through learning and growing and developing. That if you're coming in contact with someone who's in one of the 4 stages of enlightenment, you now have an opportunity to ask that person questions and gain wisdom yourself about how to get to enlightenment. So it's not anything mystical or magical that if you give a gift to someone who's enlightened, for example, that you're automatically going to get to enlightenment. It's more about you just needing to determine who is in one of the 4 stages of enlightenment. That would be a certain level of wisdom that you would need just for that. And then to be able to come in contact with those people and actually be able to ask questions and get help on the path, that's going to ripen, or that's going to produce the benefit of you being able to cultivate wisdom to actually be able to get to enlightenment yourself, or in one of the 4 stages of enlightenment. So that's why he's saying that making merit that ripens in the acquisitions, by you supporting anybody who's in one of these 4 stages, you're able to now come in contact with them to then be able to cultivate wisdom yourself. Then he says, what is given to the community bears great fruit. What he's talking about here is that anytime somebody makes an offering to a temple or to an ordained practitioner or to a teacher, anybody who's sharing these teachings, that what you should notice is that when you're making those offerings, that individual should be using a certain portion of that money, a small portion of that money, to support themselves and be able to pay for things like food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and things of that nature. But you should also notice things coming back to the community, that it's not that this person is just putting money in their pocket and enriching themselves, that anybody who understands these teachings would be offering these teachings at no cost to their students. And then their students, if they would like, they would then be able to support the continuation of those teachings. But you should see that there's benefit coming back to you. You should see that this person has set up in such a way that allows people to have a comfortable place to learn and grow and develop, that there's opportunities to meet with that person and understand the teachings and all these kinds of things. That it's not that this person is just putting a price on their courses, that they're requiring people to pay them a fee in order to learn these teachings, that you should see that there's this benefit of classes and courses and retreats that are coming back to the community and the ability for individuals to learn and grow and develop. Because the Buddha taught this mutual support between students and teachers, that as the teachers are sharing and helping the students get to enlightenment, that if the students would like, they can choose to make offerings to be able to help those teachings be shared. But it shouldn't be any expectation or any requirement of a student. A teacher should be interested in sharing the teachings without any expectation of anything in return. And this is part of their practice of generosity, in their practice of loving kindness and compassion. Because if a teacher understands the path to enlightenment, then they understand if they put a price tag on their courses and retreats right away, they're actually pushing away disadvantaged beings. There's certain disadvantaged beings that don't have $1,000 to spend to go away to a retreat for 1 week. And as soon as a teacher puts a price tag like that on their teachings and on their courses and their retreats, you can be sure that they're not understanding the path to enlightenment, because those individuals who have less resources wouldn't be able to get access to those teachings. And we might say that those people actually need the teachings the most because they're struggling in the world the most. So a teacher who has loving kindness and compassion and understands this path to enlightenment, they would be willing to share their teachings openly and freely without any expectation of anything in return. So that way, anybody and everybody can get access to the teachings. And then if a teacher understands the path to enlightenment, they would understand that their students practicing generosity is an important part of their growth and their development on the path to enlightenment. And if you put a price tag on a course or a retreat, the students never get an opportunity to practice generosity because they're just paying a price for a service, and now they don't get a chance to practice generosity. So the Buddha taught his teachers and his ordained practitioners to share the teachings openly and freely with everybody without any expectation of anything in return, and to not enrich yourself, but instead use the resources that are being shared with you from your students to then be able to give back to the students and be able to help them progress on this path to enlightenment. And by and large, this is what you see in most places of the world. But there are some rare occasions where this isn't the case. That even here in Thailand, several years ago, there was an individual who was an ordained practitioner who was receiving donations, and they weren't actually using it to help the people. They were actually enriching themselves. And they were actually posting this all over Facebook and Instagram and other places. This individual was an ordained practitioner. They were purchasing Gucci sunglasses and Fendi bags. They were chartering airplanes to fly themselves around Thailand and things like this. And the Thai people found out about this, and they take this very seriously. So they actually ended up having the police to go try to arrest this person. And this person fled out of Thailand, and they left out of Thailand. So they ended up putting out an Interpol warrant where they found out that this person was in the USA, and they asked the US police to arrest this person. And they arrested this person in California, and they extradited them back to Thailand, and they went through the court system, and they were found guilty of fraud, of taking money from the community and enriching themselves, and they were sentenced to 20 years in prison. So while in other places people might use teachings like this to enrich themselves, here in Thailand they take this very seriously, and they know that that's not the way that the Buddha set it up. The Buddha set it up so that people could feel comfortable to give and share with others, but then that those resources are being used for the community themselves. All these temples that you see around Thailand, the way that I think about it is the temple is like the womb of a woman. The womb of a woman is like the very best place for a being to grow and develop and be nurtured, to grow into a better and better being. And essentially what the Thai people have done is they've created this entire womb in the country where there's these temples all over the place. And now you can enter into that womb and you can grow and develop into a better and better being, right? And you as a household practitioner, you enter in and out of that womb each day. Where household practitioners are doing it each day, ordained practitioners are staying in that womb for an extended period of time. They're actually living there. But that womb is created by all of us choosing to support a temple, for example, or choose to support a certain teacher to be able to create that womb. So the Thai people have created this mental health network all over the country where people can enter in and out of that without any expectation of anything, that they don't have to pay a service fee to come get help. So if you're having difficulties with your career or your personal life or something like this, you can go into this womb, find somebody like me and ask questions and get help. And now as you're getting help, you might realize like, oh, wow, now that I've gotten all this help, like this has been really helpful. Maybe I'll do something so that other people can get help as well. But whether you ever choose to do that kind of thing or not is up to you. It's your choice. No one's ever going to obligate you or put expectations on you to give something. But that's what the Thai people have done over 800 to 1200 years, is they've created this mental health network that is basically on a donation basis, that people can enter in and out of this womb to be able to get the help that they need without any expectation of anything in return. So that's what the Buddha is teaching you here, is that what's given to the community bears great fruit, because now the Thais have this great fruit in their country, that they have this mental health network all over the country that people can enter in and out of at any time and get the help that they need. So that's what the Buddha is sharing here, is to support people who are practicing the teachings very closely, because that's going to ensure that the wisdom that's needed to be able to improve your life is permeating in the world. And it's helpful, as I mentioned, to remember that the Buddha wasn't trying to enrich himself here, that he understood that people were going to need to practice generosity in order to be able to train their mind to let go, and that the teachings were going to be needed for people to be able to learn and grow and develop from them. So this is just one teaching from the Buddha about this topic of merit. Some things to keep in mind about merit is it's a practice of generosity that's helping a practitioner to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. As I mentioned, craving, desire, attachment, the mind is holding on, and it oftentimes becomes selfish and it doesn't want to let go. So any kind of generosity that you practice is going to help you to be able to train your mind to let go. So even if you're going into a store and you notice that someone's behind you and you open the door and you hold it for them and you let them go in before you, this is generosity. This is training your mind, because you're sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources. But you need to be sure you're doing it without any expectation of anything in return. Not even a thank you. Because if you're standing there expecting a thank you and they don't say thank you, you'll be frustrated and irritated that they didn't say thank you. That's your mind craving permanence and wanting people to permanently do something specific. So even that generosity is helping to train your mind, but that's not merit. That's just generosity. So this topic of merit is specifically helping people to get access to the teachings. Any kind of generosity is helping your mind to eliminate this craving, desire, attachment, which is helping you to eliminate discontentedness, because it's training your mind to let go. It's helping to do what the Buddha talked about, which is called eliminating the stain of selfishness. And as you're growing and learning and developing on this path, and you're experiencing more and more benefit with the teachings of the Buddha, you might ultimately get to a point where you're seeing such significant benefit that you will know with 100% certainty that these teachings indeed work, that these teachings are indeed leading to an improved condition of your mind in your life. You'll get to a point where you have no doubt that the Buddha lived, that these teachings are actually working to help you, and that you're just going to continue to make your way closer and closer to enlightenment. Because as you're training your mind to eliminate anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings, you're going to be in situations where you once used to get angry and frustrated, and you'll see that your mind's not doing that anymore, and you'll know that it's these teachings that are helping you to do that. And as you experience that, you might be interested in other people experiencing that benefit too. And that's where you might decide that, hey, I would like to help other people get access to these teachings. And this is where you might decide to start practicing giving and sharing to help other people get access to the teachings. And that's what we call merit. Now, there's a big misunderstanding in Thailand around this topic of merit, and some of them you guys have already been asking about, which you guys are welcome to ask more about. But one of the big misunderstandings that people have is they think that they can transfer the benefits of their merit to other people. If you go to somebody and you make an offering of food, clothing, shelter, medical care, resources, or anything like this, someone might gesture to you to go get a little urn of water and to pour out this urn of water while they're chanting. And what they're thinking is that whatever benefit that you experienced as a result of making that gift, that you are now transferring it to someone else, typically a dead relative. That's the way they think about it. But this is a huge misunderstanding. If you understand the benefit of practicing generosity and producing merit, then you understand that you can't transfer that to someone else, because the benefit of practicing merit is that it enhances the quality of your mind, that it allows you to eliminate craving, desire, attachment, that you can't transfer that benefit to somebody else. And if you understand that merit is wholesome Kamma, because you're practicing generosity. Remember, what produces wholesome Kamma is generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. You're producing wholesome Kamma. And you saw the words of the Buddha that you can't transfer your wholesome Kamma to somebody else. It's just not possible. So this is a big misunderstanding that you will see all throughout the world, in the Buddhist world, where people think that they're transferring their merit to somebody else. So it's kind of like dad or mom or aunts or uncles. They were really unwise throughout their whole life, and they did all these unwise things, and now they're dead. And their relatives that are still alive will go to the temple and think that they can make some offerings. And now when they make offerings, they're going to transfer the benefits to their dead relatives. And somehow mom or dad or aunts or uncles are going to benefit from that. And this is a huge misunderstanding, because this is a rite, this is a ritual, this is a ceremony. The Buddha never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies. And you can also see where the Buddha taught that whatever Kamma you do, either wholesome or unwholesome, you are going to experience that. You can't run and hide from it. You can't erase it by just giving away some gifts and then transferring the benefit of that to someone else. It's just not possible. So you'll see this from time to time. So I'll give you the heads up so that when these things are happening, you'll understand what it is that people are talking about and what they're doing. Some more words from the Buddha about making offerings to produce merit. Here he's talking about a donor, that some things that you should think about before you ever make an offering. He's saying that there's these 3 things that you should do. That before you're giving, your mind should be joyful. Then while you're giving, your mind should be calm and confident. And then after giving, your mind should still be joyful. He's using the pronoun she here because there was a female who asked them this question. So he was addressing this female. Essentially, what the Buddha is teaching you is that before you make an offering to somebody, put some thought into it, right? And then whatever you're offering, be joyful in what you're offering. And then while you're making the offering, be calm and confident. Don't be all shaken up around this person. And then afterwards, continue to be joyful. Because you can get to the end of your offering and you can be like, oh my goodness, I'm so selfish. I didn't give enough. Why didn't I give more? I should have given more. Oh my goodness. Why did I do that? You can have remorse, right? Or you can have the other side of this. You can be like, oh my goodness, why did I give so much? Now I'm not going to be able to pay my rent, or now I'm not going to be able to spend time with my kids, or whatever it is that you do in your life in terms of your time, effort, energy, and resources. So you would like to not have remorse at the end of your offering. That's why the Buddha is teaching you to be joyful before and after giving, and then be calm and confident during giving. So if you ever decide to make an offering to someone, the Buddha teaches you to practice in this way. Then in terms of deciding who to make an offering to, he teaches you to find someone who's in one of those 4 stages of enlightenment, but you might not be able to determine who's in one of those 4 stages of enlightenment. So he gives you some other guidance, and here's some other guidance, and then I'll give you some other things too. He says that the recipient that you make your offering to should be free of craving, anger, and ignorance. If someone's free of craving, anger, and ignorance, they're enlightened. You're going to see that their mind's focused, they're concentrated, they have clarity, they have deep memory, they're able to talk about the teachings with ease. You don't see any frustration, agitation, annoyance, not even the slightest disappointment or ickiness in their mind. You should see that in the way that they're interacting with you. But then he also says someone who's practicing for the removal of craving, anger, and ignorance. Because you have some people who might be in the 1st or 2nd or 3rd stage of enlightenment, enlightenment, but they're making their way towards enlightenment. So the Buddha was approached multiple times because of his different teachings about how to determine who to make offerings to. And he always talked about virtuous behavior, that you would like to look for someone who has virtuous behavior. And he also talked about the quality of a person's mind, that he said if someone is muddle-minded, he said it's unwise to make offerings to this person. Being muddle-minded is like lacking concentration, because if you have pollutions in your mind will be muddle-minded. You'll be lacking concentration. So if you're going to make an offering to someone who's practicing the teachings deeply, you would like to see that their mind is focused and concentrated, have clarity of mind. They can speak about the teachings with ease, because then you know that they're actually practicing the teachings. Because if you're practicing these teachings close enough, you will eliminate the pollution out of your mind, and your mind will be focused and concentrated. So this is like a really easy way that he gave to people to be able to observe the quality of someone's mind. You're not judging them. You're not looking down on them, but you're just kind of observing the quality of their mind to be able to see whether this is someone who's practicing the teachings closely or not. And then you can feel comfortable in making an offering to them, that those things that you're making offerings, either your time, effort, energy, or resources, are going to benefit other people that are going to actually get benefit of learning the teachings. And again, he also talked about virtuous moral behavior, right? If you were to make offerings to, let's just say, a teacher or an ordained practitioner who was gambling or using drugs and alcohol, or smoking cigarettes or hitting animals and beating up animals, well, your offering, whatever it is that you're offering, your time, effort, energy, and resources is going to be going to that. Right? So that's not going to help people get to enlightenment if someone's spending money gambling or using drugs or alcohol, because you can actually see ordained practitioners in the world who are doing those things. Right? The Buddha wouldn't have referred to those people as ordained practitioners or monks, but there are people who are wearing orange robes, shaving their head, choosing to gamble, choosing to use drugs and alcohol and things of this nature. Even there's occasional situations where these people are abusing children. That's very unfortunate whenever these kinds of things are happening, but it does happen. And the Buddha talked about these kinds of things during his lifetime too. He gave this great analogy. He said that if he was a cow walking on the earth in rainy season, and the earth was really soft, and he was leaving hoof prints behind, and there was a donkey behind him, and this donkey was putting its hooves into the same hoof prints as he was making as a cow, and the donkey was thinking, I'm a cow, I'm a cow, I'm a cow. He says, the fact that this donkey is putting its hooves in the same hoof prints as me, and the donkey thinks that it's a cow, does this make the donkey a cow? And the answer is no. Right? So just because someone's shaving their hair and wearing orange robes, or just because someone's shaving their hair and wearing white clothes, doesn't mean that they're practicing the teachings very closely. You're going to need to be able to understand this person and know this person to know whether or not they're practicing the teachings closely. So the Buddha taught you to observe the quality of their mind in a non-judgmental way, but also look at their virtuous behavior. Look at their moral conduct. What kinds of things are they involved in, and how are they spending that money? Because if you just haphazardly put your money or your time or your effort or your energy out into the world, it's not necessarily benefiting people. So you need to be able to make wise decisions about all parts of your life. Everything that the Buddha taught is based on discernment or wise decision making, including where you choose to donate your time, effort, energy, or resources. You would like to make sure that it's beneficial. So the Buddha teaches you to look at the quality of an individual's mind and look at their moral conduct and the way that they practice in their day-to-day life. And then you can be assured that whatever you're offering is actually being beneficial and helping people to get access to these teachings, because that's what you would like to do. You're not interested in supporting a gambling habit or a drug and alcohol habit or anything like that. So this is some guidance that the Buddha shares with you about how to ensure your mind is protected when you're actually making an offering, and how to ensure that your offering is going to experience benefit when you make that offering. There's a time where somebody asked the Buddha about his teachings, and they said, essentially, you have all these teachings. His teachings are very deep. They're very profound. They're exhaustive. They're extensive, that he has all these different teachings. And someone said, hey, can you just boil it down for me? Like, what is it that I should be doing on a day-to-day basis in order to be able to make my way to enlightenment? Can you just kind of boil it down? What are some simple things that I can be doing each day to be able to make my way to enlightenment? And this is what he taught them. He taught them something called the way of practice. And he suggested to them to practice generosity, moral conduct, and meditation. You're going to need much more than this in order to get to enlightenment. But in terms of just getting started on the path to enlightenment, he suggested someone start with generosity, that you're giving and sharing with the people around you, that this is going to train your mind to let go and eliminate craving, desire, attachment, that you work on your moral conduct, that there's certain moral conduct that you have right now that is potentially unwise and unwholesome. You might be bitter and harsh and hostile or aggressive with certain people and certain relationships around you. And you would like to improve that and clean that up. So in terms of like cleaning up your unwholesome Kamma, we talked about that earlier. If you had an oil pipe that busted and that was spewing oil all over the world, you're not going to go clean up the floor first. You're going to go shut down the oil pipe so that you're not continuing to spew oil all over the world, right? So one of the first things you would like to do in order to clean up your life practice and clean up what you experience on a day-to-day basis is your moral conduct. As long as you're out there functioning through bitterness and harshness and hostility with the people around you, you're just still spewing oil into the world. So this way of practice, the Buddha is teaching you to shut down that oil pipe, shut down that moral conduct that is unwholesome and unwise by improving your moral conduct. And the Buddha teaches you that in the Eightfold Path, the right intention, right speech, right action, and right livelihood, helping you to be able to see how to have good, wholesome moral conduct. Then he says on a daily basis to also be practicing meditation. This is going to help you to be able to make your way to enlightenment. So these are daily practices that you would have, is practicing generosity daily, improving your moral conduct daily, improving your meditation practice daily, right? In terms of your meditation practice, as you guys have heard me share, frequency is more important than duration. That if it's a matter of one meditation for 30 minutes or 2 for 15, the 2 for 15 is actually going to be more beneficial. Generosity is exactly the same way. Frequency is more important than duration or the amount. So for example, if you were going to give $500 a year, once a year to an orphanage, that's not going to be nearly as beneficial as giving $1 a day, because your mind's going to have to let go every single day. You have to let go, let go, let go. So if you're practicing generosity, doing it frequently each day is actually going to have more benefit than if you just did it once a month or once a year. So if you're frequently practicing generosity, your mind's having to let go more frequently. Where generosity is helping you. So let me give you some examples. Let's just say that you are washing your clothes and drying your clothes, and when you take your clothes out of the machine, you see they're ripped and torn, and you get upset and frustrated and agitated about that. You know that you're attached to your clothing, and you want this clothing to be permanent, because now you're frustrated when you see the impermanent nature of your clothes. You get agitated or frustrated. Well, since you know you're attached to your clothing, what would be wise is to practice generosity, where you start giving away your clothing to people. You start donating it at different places. This is going to train your mind to let go. Or say you have a certain special type of jewelry that you wear each day, and when you misplace it and you can't find it, your mind's all shaken up by this. Well, you know you're attached to your jewelry. Maybe you start sharing it with other people, whether you give it away or whether you just let them wear it for a period of time. This is going to train your mind to let it go. Or if you notice that you're holding on to your money and you become discontent when your bank account balance is up here, you're really happy, and when it's down here, you're frustrated and agitated, you know that you're attached to your money. It would be wise to start letting some of this go, where of course you need to have what you need. You need to practice this in the middle way. You can't give extensively where you don't have what you need, because then you would be practicing with craving, desire, attachment. You'd be practicing generosity excessively, and that's not going to produce beneficial results. But if you never gave, your mind will be quite selfish. So you're going to need to come to the middle if you notice that you're selfish with money, where you're actually giving and sharing with people around you. And this is one of the reasons why in Thailand you see, like in restaurants and stores and stuff, they will have places where you can donate things. So instead of like giving like, 10,000 baht to one place, you might decide to give, 20 baht or 30 baht or 50 baht 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. Right? And this maybe adds up to $3 or $5 or even $1, right? So maybe you put 5 baht or 10 baht in each individual little box that you see, and this is training your mind to let go more frequently. So this is what you would like to incorporate into your day-to-day life, where you're practicing generosity frequently throughout your day. And remember, it's sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources. So you could, donate your time somewhere, but it doesn't have to be, 10 hours a day. It could just be, you come out of your house and you notice that your neighbor's trash has been blown all over the yard, and maybe they're even on vacation. They're not even home, or maybe they are home, and maybe you take a little bit of your time before you head off to work to pick up their trash. And maybe you put it on their porch and you don't even tell them that you did it, because you're not expecting a thank you or anything. This is your generosity to just help this person, that you're not just functioning through selfish desires, but you're interested in helping other people through your generosity. So you're going to need to frequently practice this generosity, improve your moral conduct and your meditation. And it's this generosity that is producing merit that is allowing you to learn the good, wholesome moral conduct and is allowing you to learn the meditation. If it wasn't for the practice of generosity to produce merit, people wouldn't learn the wholesome moral conduct that the Buddha taught, and they wouldn't be learning the meditation. So this is what's called the way of practice. These are the 3 things that you would like to be doing on a daily basis to improve your life practice, to gradually make your way to enlightenment. And the detail of this is found in the Eightfold Path, of course. So you need to study that. Here's another teaching. Oh, there's one teaching that I think got missed, or maybe I took it out. Did I take it out? Oh, no, there it is. Okay, so here's a teaching from the Buddha that when I learned this, it was very impactful. So usually when I talk about generosity or merit, I usually share this so that you guys can learn about it. It's titled, If Beings Knew the Results of Giving and Sharing. He says, monks, if beings knew, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given, nor would the stain of selfishness obsess them and take root in their minds. Even if it were their last bite, their last mouthful, they would not eat without having shared it, if there was someone to share it with. But because beings do not know, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they eat without having given, and the stain of selfishness obsesses them and takes root in their minds. So what's this result of giving and sharing that the Buddha knows that other people don't know? And because they don't know this, they don't actually give and share. What he's talking about is enlightenment, that if beings knew the results of giving and sharing was enlightenment in this peaceful and joyful mental state, and they understood how peaceful and how joyful that mental state was, then they would not eat without having shared it if there was someone to share it with. So sometimes when we eat food, we tend to hoard food, particularly in the West. When we go to some place to eat, we'll tend to load up our plate and then we eat that food, and it's kind of like mine, 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 mine. This is almost like an animal, right? Like an animal will tend to hoard food. Where here in Asia, you don't see that. In Asia, they tend to put all the food in the middle and then everybody kind of eats that way. Right? So if you are a family in remote Thailand and you have 4, 6, 8 people in your family, you might not have enough money and enough food that at the end of this meal, everybody's going to be full. We tend to be used to that at the end of each meal, we're full. But here in places like Asia where people don't have that much resources, not everybody's full at the end of the meal. So if you put the food in the middle and everybody takes 2 or 3 spoonfuls and then they eat that, and then they take another 2 or 3 spoonfuls and then they eat that, at the end of this meal, the food has gradually gone down. Everybody might not be full at the table, but everybody had a little bit of food, and we've kind of gradually equally ate all this food where nobody's actually hoarded it. So this is a really good practice that if you are interested in practicing this style of eating, it really helps to be able to share the food with the people around you. So even if you went to like 7-Eleven and you bought a bag of chips and you came back to your friends and you popped open the bag of chips, you could actually send the bag of chips around to all your friends, right? And then if it comes back to you and there's one chip left, eat your one chip and then go get another bag. It's not very expensive, right? So what the Buddha is teaching you is that if you understood how peaceful and joyful this enlightened mental state is, and that it's generosity that's going to lead to that peace and joy, that you would share your food, even if it was your last bite, even if it was your last mouthful, you would still share it because you're interested in getting to that peace and that joy. So that's what this particular teaching is all about. This one I'm not going to share just in the interest of time. It's helpful, it's beneficial, but let's move on to this one. This is titled "The Gifts of Teachings is Superior Than Gifts of Material Things." So the Buddha is teaching here that giving the gift of the teachings is far superior than giving a gift of material things. For example, you could go out and buy your parents a brand new house, brand new car. You could give them millions of dollars potentially someday if you were a millionaire. You could load up their bank account with all kinds of money. You could give them all kinds of jewelry and everything else. But that pales in comparison to giving someone the gift of these teachings, because the gift of these teachings means that they can get to peace and joy where they're not experiencing anger and sadness or frustration for the rest of their life. Who cares about what car they're driving if they're doing it angrily and frustrated and with annoyment and stress and anxiety? Who cares? But if you can give someone a gift of peace and joy, that they can be peaceful and joyful for the rest of their life, that's the most superior gift. So it's kind of like if there was two buttons. If there was button A and you press that and your family would be angry and frustrated for the rest of their life, or you could press button B and they would be peaceful and joyful for the rest of their life, which button would you press? Button A or button B? A? Oh, you'd press B? Okay. What would you guys press? B? You'd press B, right? Well, unfortunately, we can't press B, right? Unfortunately, that button doesn't exist. It'd be wonderful if it did exist. We could press that button and everyone would be peaceful and joyful. So we can't press a button. Each individual person needs to decide to bring the teachings into their life. But if the teachings aren't available for them, then they wouldn't be able to press that button. So practicing merit is a way of giving a gift of the teachings. You might not be able to actually teach the teachings at this point, but by sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources so that other people can get access to these teachings, that's like giving a gift of these teachings. And that's what practicing merit is all about, is giving the gift of the teachings. And then this last one here, and then I'll see what questions you guys have, is the Buddha talks about mutual support between monks, Brahmins, and householders. Let me first explain to you what a Brahmin is. During the lifetime of the Buddha, and even now, there were individuals that are referred to as Brahmin. These are like Hindu priests that during the lifetime of the Buddha, it was taught prior to his teachings that you as a regular person weren't able to improve your life whatsoever. That if you would like to improve your life and experience something better in your life, you would need to go to this special class of people who were considered to be holy people, and you would pay them money for a service, and they would do a right ritual ceremony or worship on your behalf, and then your life was supposed to get better. So these Brahmin were born into a family. It's a very strong caste system where about 15% of society would be considered a Brahmin. They would be considered holy people. And now a regular common person would go pay a fee, and now they were going to do some ceremony. Your life was supposed to get better. But this bred a lot of corruption, because you show up today and it'd be like, oh, that's $5 for that ceremony. But then you come back tomorrow and it's like, oh, well, that ceremony you would like me to do, that's $10 today. And what you were taught is you couldn't improve your life at all. it was not possible for you to do it because you weren't strong enough. It was only these people that could help you to improve your life. So the Buddha saw this was going on, and he knew that this wasn't true, that in order for you to be able to improve your life, you needed to cultivate wisdom and make better decisions in your life. So that's what he was teaching. But these Brahmin who were doing these rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship, they were also teaching a certain amount of moral conduct. So they would sometimes come to the Buddha and they would learn from the Buddha like students. So here he's talking to his students. The Buddha is talking to his students. He says, monks, Brahmins and householders are very helpful to you. They provide you with the requisites of robes, alms food, lodgings, and medicines in time of sickness. And you monks are very helpful to Brahmins and householders as you teach them the teachings that are good in the beginning, the middle, and the end, with the correct meaning and wording. And you proclaim the spiritual life in its fulfillment in complete purity. Thus, monks, this spiritual life is lived with mutual support for the purpose of crossing the flood and making a complete end of discontentedness. So what he's saying is there's this mutual support between students and teachers, that teachers are essentially sharing and giving the teachings without any expectation of anything in return. And if the students choose, then they support the teachers. This has been going on since the lifetime of the Buddha. The Buddha actually never accepted gold or silver or land or animals or slaves or women. People were offering these things to the Buddha at different times, and he wouldn't accept these things as offerings. He only accepted food, clothing, shelter, and medical care. And there was actually one time where someone offered him a very rich, very elaborate fabric, a very expensive fabric, and he accepted it because it helped the person to enhance the quality of their mind to accept this gift. But he turned to one of his students and he asked him to rip it up into pieces and sew it back together and make a robe out of it, because the Buddha wasn't interested in walking around with this fancy clothing. So all these statues you see of him looking very fancy and very royal, that's not the way the Buddha looked during his lifetime. He just wore simple clothing like what you see here in this particular picture. He just wore simple rag robes. He didn't walk around wearing elaborate fabrics. So he's teaching this mutual support as a way to ensure that the people who are deeply interested in learning and practicing the teachings, that they're able to do that. Because essentially what students do is they create like this womb for their teacher to be able to learn and grow and develop in that womb. And as they become wiser and wiser, and their minds getting closer and closer to enlightenment, the teacher can then share those teachings back with the students to be able to help them to be able to get to enlightenment. Whereas if, like, say, for example, I was off running a business somewhere and I was making money through that, I wouldn't nearly be able to be available as I am with students to be able to help them to be able to get to enlightenment. So I'm always very appreciative whenever students do help me to be able to support what it is that I'm doing, to share the teachings with you guys, because it provides me the opportunity to be able to share these teachings with you. And I always do that at no cost, whether I'm teaching here or whether I'm teaching somewhere else in the world. Every time that I'm teaching, it's always available to you at no cost. So you guys are always welcome to come learn with me no matter where I'm teaching. And there's never an expectation from me that a student will do anything for me. So you guys are always welcome to come and learn. This is a topic that I teach because students are going to need to know about generosity and merit, but it's important for you to understand that I don't have any expectation that a student will ever support me in anything that I'm doing. But when I do share and students do support what I'm doing, I'm always very appreciative of your support. So if there's anything that you've done this week, whether it's vacuuming the carpets or cleaning the bathrooms or taking out the trash, or maybe you've put some funds in the donation box to help us pay for electric or water, things like this, I would like you to know that I very much appreciate that. So thank you for your generosity. Thank you for supporting what I'm doing here, because by you supporting me, it actually helps me to help you. That's what I'm actually doing, is helping you. And your support helps me to be able to do that. And I'm able to help anybody and everybody all throughout the world because of that support. There's people that live on remote islands off the coast of Africa that have sent me emails before. And they told me that on their island, they don't even have a library, but they have access to the internet. And they were able to download my books from the internet for free. And they really appreciate that, right? I have people, again, in remote tribes or villages in Africa that they live off of $50 a month, and they've sent me information that says that they're so appreciative that they're able to learn the teachings without having to pay anything because they can't afford to pay anything. So there's people that do support what I do, and it provides me the opportunity to support everybody and anybody in the world without any expectation of anything in return. So any kind of support that you've provided, or if you decide someday in the future that you would like to support me and what I'm doing to help you and help others, I would like you to just know that I'm very thankful of that. I'm very appreciative of that. And this is that mutual support that the Buddha talked about 2,500 years ago. So do you guys have any questions on this topic of merit or what it is? And I don't know if I was able to hit on y'all's questions that you asked. One thing that I'll remember from what you asked is how in one particular temple, or maybe multiple temples you've been in, where they've listed out the people who have given money. So it's important to remember that if you're making an offering, that you're not expecting to be distinguished for your offering. But if someone makes an offering and then the temple chooses to list out who made the offering, it doesn't mean that person wanted that or expected that. Their choice was, here's my offering. And if the temple's choice was to acknowledge that in some way, that was the temple's choice. That wasn't the person's choice themselves. So whenever you're making an offering, it's important that you don't have any expectation of anything in return. And one of the ways that people do this is they make offerings anonymously, in this way that people can't acknowledge them. And then you can make sure that your mind isn't expecting something in return. So here in Thailand, it's a pretty common practice that when you make an offering, you put your name on an envelope, right? And people know who made the offering, but you don't have to do that. You could make offerings anonymously. And that way your mind is free of wanting anything, even acknowledgement from anybody. Did you have more about that? No? Okay. I think there might have been some questions back there. Yeah? Okay. For those of you guys online, you can ask questions by putting it into Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom, and I'll be able to answer your question.
The teachers that offer their teachings for money, I understand from what they say that it's to give the opportunity to the students to commit more. It kind of makes sense. Could you clarify that point of view?
Yeah, essentially what's happening, in my opinion, is the person is attached to their money. And if they give up money to take this class, now that attachment to their money is going to motivate them to be more dedicated in the development of their learning in the class. This is based in craving, desire, attachment, and that's going to get extinguished. In order to make your way on the path to enlightenment, you need to eliminate all craving, desire, attachment. You need to be dedicated and determined just through wise decision making. If it takes money for you to be dedicated to apply yourself in any given situation, then your mind is not free yet. You're not making decisions based in wisdom. You're only making the decision because you gave money. Now you're going to spend more time learning. But eventually this craving for your money is going to be extinguished. And if that's the only reason why you're choosing to learn the teachings of the Buddha, then eventually you're not going to learn the teachings of the Buddha anymore because you don't care about your money anymore, right? So what would be wiser is for teachers to understand that their students are going to need to practice generosity in order to be able to get to enlightenment. It's important to understand that as a teacher sharing teachings, that there's disadvantaged beings that can't afford any particular amount of money to be able to learn and practice the teachings. And it would be wise to open up your teachings to countless people in the world. And then don't have any expectation that students will give you anything whatsoever. As a teacher, when I sit here and teach, I don't have any expectation from you guys. You can see, like, you can lay on the floor, you can sleep, you can do whatever you would like to do. You make yourself comfortable. I'm just here teaching. Whatever you would like to do, it's up to you. I don't have any expectation that you will do any particular thing in any particular way, but you will experience the results of whatever decisions that you make. So a teacher would be wise to set up in such a way that their teachings are open to everybody and anybody. And if a teacher is very confident in their teachings and they know that their teachings actually work to lead to enlightenment, then they would be confident to give their teachings away for free, right? At no cost. Because if you're giving your teachings away at no cost, you must have a whole lot of confidence that they're going to lead to beneficial results, because why else would you be willing to give it away at no cost, right? Because I know with 100% certainty that these teachings are going to lead to beneficial results for people. And as they see that benefit, they're going to be interested in supporting other people to be able to get access to these teachings. It's only a matter of time. And I don't have expectations that they will do that, but I just know that people will do that. And I also know the natural law of Kamma well enough that if I put out generosity, people will choose to be generous with me too at some point. Again, without any expectation of anything in return, but I just know that if I'm generous, then people will take care of what it is I need to take care of. So a teacher who's confident that their teachings lead to enlightenment wouldn't have a need to actually charge anybody, because it's be blocking people from getting access to the teachings. It would be motivating people just based on money, which is a craving, desire, attachment. And it's ultimately going to not help that group of people get to enlightenment. So that's why the Buddha taught not to charge anybody for teachings, but instead just do it out of the kindness of your heart, out of compassion for other beings. The Buddha was asked multiple times during his life, like, why he taught. And he said that he taught out of compassion for the world, that compassion is the concern for the misfortune of others. And that should be the only reason why a teacher teaches, out of concern for the misfortune of others. Because if a teacher has either gotten to enlightenment or close to it, they would know how important and how impactful that quality of mind is. And they would be interested in countless people experiencing it and not putting any roadblocks in the way for people. What a teacher would be able to do is remove the roadblocks, remove the obstacles, remove the hurdles, so that students can very easily get access to the teachings. Because if you know what that enlightened mental state is, it's like, man, give it to everybody and anybody for free. It's kind of like if you discovered the cure to cancer, what would you do? Would you bottle it, mass market it, and become a billionaire or a gazillionaire? Or would you just go around the world and give it away for free? Right? It's the same kind of thing. As if you discover these teachings, in my opinion, it's better than the cure to cancer, because everybody has a discontent mind. Not everybody has cancer, right? So you give away this amazing wisdom to be able to help everybody in the world to experience peace and joy. And that would be the best way. That would be the most superior gift, the most wonderful gift to ever give.
Thank you. That clarifies a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'll say at the same time that if someone does choose to charge for the classes that they teach, I don't sit in judgment of that person. I don't judge that person as being good or bad or right or wrong. That's that choice for that person to make those decisions for themselves. I don't think of them as good or bad or anything like that. I don't think of myself as being more holy because I give away the teachings for free. I don't think of it that way. I'm just sharing with you why the Buddha taught to share the teachings at no cost. And then if someone else chooses to do that differently, that's their choice, but they're going to experience the results of that. And their students are going to experience the results of that too, because they're not going to be able to experience enlightenment by paying for a price for a course, because they're not going to be able to practice generosity and also produce merit as well. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you about continued support on the path to enlightenment. Okay. This is how, now that the course is kind of slowly starting to come to an end, how you can get benefit beyond this course. Because if you come to this particular course and you just spend the 5 days here and then you never learn anything else in your life, okay, you've benefited. The Buddha teaches you that if you even understand one sentence of his teachings, that would be very good for your welfare and peacefulness for a very long time. So for example, if you just understand what loving kindness is, and you went out into the world and you were being loving and kind, more so than you were in the past, that's going to be very good for your welfare and peacefulness for a very long time. Just going out in the world and being more loving and kind. But if you learn more than just one sentence, it's going to, duplicate and replicate exponentially the benefit that you're going to be able to experience. So by having continued support on the path to enlightenment, you're going to be able to then experience more and more benefit, because nobody's going to get to enlightenment in 5 days, right? This is a 5-day course. Nobody's going to get to enlightenment in that period of time. You're going to need continued support on the path. So these are the ways that you can get that continued support. There's books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, and quizzes that you can get from our website. If you go to our website, this is like a central hub to be able to access all these resources. Then there's in-person and online classes, courses, and retreats. You can learn here in Thailand, but also I travel all over the world. And whenever I travel, the classes, courses, and retreats are available at no cost. So you can also attend those. And you'll be able to see them, that they're accessible from our website. And then oftentimes they're being live streamed as well. If I'm teaching here in Chiang Mai, our temple, this classroom is wired to be able to live stream all throughout the world. And oftentimes when I travel and teach, those people set up live stream too, so that I can live stream from wherever I'm teaching there as well. So you'll be able to access these either live, or you can watch recordings. Then I have 2 online and in-person programs that are ongoing programs. There's something called the Group Learning Program. This is a 7-month program where each Sunday I go chapter by chapter in this first book, helping students to develop a really strong foundation in the path to enlightenment. We actually just restarted this program. We're only in chapter 2, so you guys could easily join this program where we meet each Sunday, either at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. here at the temple at 9 a.m. And then I live stream it throughout the world. And then at 9 p.m. I do it from home. So wherever you are in the world, there should be a live class for you, because I teach it in these 2 different time zones. So like 9 a.m. in the morning here, if you were in North America, Central America or South America, that's actually Saturday night. And then when I'm teaching at 9 p.m. Thai time on Sunday, that's like Sunday morning for North America, Central America, and South America. So depending on where you are, at 9 a.m. in the morning here, people in Europe are sleeping, right? So then I teach at 9 p.m. So the people in Europe, they're awake now. They can actually attend the classes live. So no matter where you are in the world, there's a live class for you. And you can take this group learning program to gradually learn in this book. And I think you guys know that these books are available at no cost, right? You can download it from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get a printed version here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get a printed version on Amazon. So this group learning program is going to slowly walk you through the very first book. Then this Words of the Buddha, the Pali Canon and English Study Group, this is going to explore volumes 2 through 13 over the course of a year and a half. And this is also taught here at the temple at 9 a.m. on Saturday and 9 p.m. from my home on Saturday. So you need to check your local time zone to determine what time that is for you. And if you can't make the live class, because sometimes you're not going to be able to, they're all recorded. You could watch it on YouTube, on Facebook, on the podcast. So you could gradually be learning at your own pace. There's some people that do that. I've set up in such a way that it doesn't matter what your lifestyle is, you can learn these teachings. I have a lady who, her and her husband, they ride their bicycles all over the world. That's what they do. They ride their bicycles everywhere. And in her tent, each night, she watches recordings of me teaching, and then she sends me questions by email. Right? So this is possible for you. This is what you can do. So no matter what your lifestyle is, if you're interested in eliminating your discontentedness and getting to a peaceful and joyful life and a peaceful and joyful mind, there's a way for you to do that. And you can access the teachings this way. You can even get personal guidance, because taking these classes, courses, and retreats in these ongoing programs, it's wonderful because you can learn a certain amount of information, but then it's applying it to your specific situations. When you and your mom are having difficulties, when you and your boss are having difficulties, you might need somebody to reach out to. Maybe you're struggling with your children or something like this. You can actually schedule personal discussions either in person or online. If you'd like to do it in person, if we're in the same town together, you can just contact me privately through face-to-face or sending me a message or an email or something. But if you're somewhere else, you can schedule online. You can go to our website, you can schedule online, and then we'll meet in Zoom and I'll be able to help you. understanding what it is that your challenges are, and then I can help you with the teachings of the Buddha of how to address those. It's you that's making the decisions, but I'm just sharing with you guidance from the teachings of the Buddha, and then you make whatever decision you think is best for you. I won't tell you what you should or shouldn't do in any situation. I'm just providing you the guidance of the teachings of the Buddha, and then you provide your own decision in that situation. Then there's a Facebook group where students will also ask questions, where you can post a question, and then I'm the one who answers it. The other students don't answer your questions. They might read your question and read the answer in order to help them. That's one of the ways you can use the Facebook group, is just go in there and read other people's questions and read the answers, and that's going to help you to be able to learn and grow as well. But other students won't answer your questions in there. So there's essentially 4 ways to get help. You can ask questions in a live class. You can post in this Facebook group. You can send me a private message, or you can schedule personal guidance. Those are the ways to get direct help. Through the classes, you're learning a certain bulk information, but you're going to need to relate it to your specific challenges. Like, how do you implement it in that specific situation? And those are the 4 ways that you can do it. Ask questions in live classes, post in the Facebook group, send a private message, or you can schedule personal guidance. And as you guys have heard, everything that I offer is available at no cost. It's completely no cost. You will always be able to get access to these teachings that I share at no cost. So any questions on continued support? No questions? Okay. So now it's just about 12:30, and what we can do is take an 1.5 hour lunch break. Because what we have to do this afternoon, it's not going to take a full 1.5 hours. So we can come back at 2:00, just like we did yesterday. And then we'll be finished up probably around 3, or maybe even earlier, depending on you guys. So if you guys would like to take a lunch break, you can take a lunch break and come back at 2. And then when we come back, I'm going to talk about the field trip. I'm going to then also talk about integrating the teachings into your day-to-day life, how to integrate them in based on what you've learned so far, how to really integrate what you've learned into your day-to-day life. And then we'll also talk about an activity for this afternoon as well. So again, thank you all for your questions. Thank you for your interest to learn, and perhaps I'll see you guys after lunch. Okay? Enjoy yourself.